Hi, welcome to the Older Brother Podcast. Your 20s are just a little bit easier with an older brother. My name is Christian, and today we're going to be talking about the importance of being single in our 20s. My little drink of the day today is, you guessed it, a little agua, a little water. Trying to be healthy, trying to work out, treat my body like a temple. And so here we are. Little ASMR for you. So before we dive all the way into this, I feel like singleness is the one topic that every podcast covers, like a psychology podcast, a self-help podcast. I feel like everyone talks about it because it is relevant to everybody. Everyone's going to be single at some point, and most of that time will probably be spent in your 20s, or maybe later in life, but I'm not later in life yet. So here we are. We're in our 20s. We're going to start talking a little bit about my dating history and kind of where I'm coming from, just to give you a better picture of what's going on here. I'm currently single. I've been single for just shy of a year. My last relationship ended in December of 2023. I've had 2 long-term relationships and a couple of short-lived ones, or little situationships, and they've all marked very transformative times in my life. I've also been really fortunate that both of the girls that I've spent time with were loving, healthy, emotionally mature people who really did teach me a lot about love and about relationships and about myself. And I want a partner, and I want all of the beautiful things that come with a relationship. But the longer I'm single, the more I do kind of enjoy my time alone, and the more I realize a partner is not necessarily the only answer to the fulfillment that I seek or that I want. So I want to spend this time on changing the way we view singleness. Instead of seeing singleness as a problem we're trying to fix or as a waiting room, we're going to spend this chat trying to recognize it for the unique opportunities that it presents us. Singleness isn't a phase to get through. It's a unique and exciting opportunity to build the foundation for a life you'll love, with or without a partner. I'm going to say that one more time. Singleness isn't a phase to get through. It's a unique and exciting opportunity to build the foundation for a life you'll love, with or without a partner. We're going to start by talking about the challenges of being single, why it is challenging, why it's difficult to be single. I suspect I don't really need to go over this in much detail. If you're single, you get it. Millions of songs have been written about lonely late nights and longing, and it really can be really, really lonely and hard, even if you have been in it for a while and you have built a life that you love. I spent so much time when I was newly single going to bars to talk to girls, in air quotes. More like try to, stand there and hope they'll come talk to me, just to try and get a little affection. That is a huge challenge of being single for me. Is I like affection, I like attention, I need external validation, and I want someone to like me so I feel like I'm good enough. That's really hard to do if you are basing your input for that on like just going to bars. You're gonna have a tough time unless you're Brad Pitt. It's also so expensive. It's, in my experience, it leaves you feeling bad. It's not great. It's not worth it. It leaves your wallet dry, leaves you sad. But it's tough to want to be wanted. And the longer I spent single, the less I felt wanted for a long time. We will talk about some tips to help with that later. But another challenge of being single is the fear of missing out, FOMO. I am early enough into my 20s where there's not a ton of my close friends getting married and having kids and all that sort of thing. But I have many good friends who are a little bit later in their 20s that have really brought that up with me, where it's something they made a plan for their lives. They, I want a wife and I want a kid by this age and want to be in a house by this age, and they're not there yet. And it's scary because you don't know when that plan's going to pick back up, dude. You're just kind of like being dragged. I'm thinking of one guy. He is like the kindest, sweetest, most eligible bachelor that I can think of. And just for whatever reason, it hasn't happened for him yet. He hasn't met that person yet. And it's spooky. That's a challenge of being single, is like the uncertainty at when's it going to end? Is it going to go according to my plan at all? What's going to happen? So that's a huge thing I think a lot of people struggle with. Another interesting thing I think people struggle with being single is lack of identity, especially coming out of a relationship. This was a big one for me because in my last relationship, I got to be kind of a supporter for my girlfriend, and I got to be this like partner that she would come to and lean on, like we all are. But sometimes it felt more like I was this person's boyfriend than like Christian, if that makes any sense, which isn't a good place to be, but it was where I was. And so when I came out of that relationship, I really was like, oh my God, like I don't even know who I am on my own, if not this person's boyfriend, which again, I know it doesn't sound good, but that's how it was. I don't know. You can struggle with identity and like knowing who you are. You're just like, what the hell am I doing here, dude? And I think a lot of relationships can offer you a sense of identity. Like if nothing else, you get to be so-and-so's partner or so-and-so's person. This is something I found online. It's a bit of a newer idea, but it can be for sure a challenge to enjoy solitude in a hyper-connected world where every time you open your phone, you see people together, you see relationships, you see your friends, you see all of these things that you may want that you laying in bed scrolling on TikTok don't have right now. And that can be really isolating for sure. There's, like I said, there's 1,000,001 challenges to being single. And most of us have experienced them. And for these reasons and many more, I do think people can kind of jump into relationships for the wrong reasons. You get all the benefits of being in a relationship. You get attention, you get sex, you get like, to be seen with this person and to feel wanted. But if it's just to avoid feeling alone or feeling like you're behind in things, that's for the wrong reasons, dude. I wish you the best of luck, but I'm not confident it's going to work. For example, I did this with my first major girlfriend. We dated for 2 years, and I broke up with her 3 times during that 2 years. I knew the first time we broke up that it was just not the right fit for me, and I was trying to like express that. But what would happen every time we would break up is we would go a month without talking, and I would like lose who I was, and I would come crawling back to her. I had no idea how to be alone. I couldn't handle it. It was too painful, too scary. And so I would come right back to the poor girl. And what I did was horrible, but it was because I was 19, completely alone in a new city, had no idea who I was, and kind of just like kept pulling on that safety blanket. And I regret the way that I handled that 100%. She didn't deserve any of that, but I'm pretty forgiving of myself for it because of the fact that in the end, it did teach me how to be alone. And that's something I just think you need to learn. Otherwise you become someone who is, what's the word? Like someone who is at risk for becoming codependent. You're likely to become codependent if you don't know how to be alone. And that's exactly what the hell is going on there. So don't do that. Especially if someone loves you, dude, like please don't keep going back to them. Just like, you're going to be fine. Just anyway, all that to say, I've done it. I get it. I know people get into things for the wrong reasons. And it's hard. It just is hard to be single, and it's hard to be alone. But let me just encourage you, if that's where you are right now, you're going to be okay. Myself, millions of other people have been exactly where you are right now and have come out on the other side. We all go through it, and you will come out alive and probably much, much better for it, believe it or not. I want to talk about some things that you have to look forward to during this time alone. Okay, next section, the benefits of being single. There are many, 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 many. I want to start by introducing an author called John Kim. He is a professional shrink. He wrote a book called Single on Purpose. That book was recommended to me by a coworker when I was finally going through my final breakup with that girl. And when she mentioned the book, I was really turned off by the title. It sounded very self-helpy and kind of toxic positive, like Single on Purpose. It's going to be great. But I was so desperate for relief that I read it, and now I'm truly very glad I did. The quote that, in my opinion, best summarizes the book is this: "It's singlehood isn't just about being single. Singlehood is about being a whole person." I find this really interesting because to me, that almost sounds contrary to everything we're told. We're told grow up, get married, have kids, or at least if you grew up like me. But he's right. I want to rattle through a couple of the things now that I do view as huge positives that are unique to this period of our lives and that will help us become a whole person. Without the number one, without the influence of a partner, you have space to explore who you truly are, your values, your passions, your goals, and the things you want to do. You can prioritize self-improvement with things like hobbies, fitness, your career, your education, whatever you want. Singleness also forces you to put your social energy into friendships and other platonic relationships in your life, which helps you to build a real community. You build a stronger sense of self, which is crucial for future relationships and personal fulfillment. It allows for the growth of, in my opinion, very necessary emotional intelligence skills. It makes you learn how to process emotions independently on your own and, come out on the other side of things more in tune with your own needs and boundaries, which does translate to healthier relationships in the future. Singleness also gives you some fresh perspective on what you do and don't want in a future partner. The longer I'm single and the more I start to enjoy that, the more I'm like, it's gonna have to be really good for me to let this person into my life, which I think is a cool idea because I didn't used to feel that way. It was like I need this person to complete my life, and for the first time ever, I don't feel like that anymore, which is incredible. Another pro of being single, another huge benefit is after the freshness. Okay, this is for if you're recently out of a breakup or out of a relationship, after the freshness of that breakup fades, you're able to objectively analyze what did and didn't work, which is huge moving forward because you learn like patterns about yourself. You learn things that you won't tolerate in a partner again, things that really weren't working for you. This person's messy as hell. I can't live with, whatever it is. You can see what did and didn't work from a very objective place. Ultimately, to sum up the benefits of being single, when you are alone, you're completely free to design a life based entirely on your own priorities and aspirations. Once you're married, yeah, kind of, but like really not really. You have some autonomy, sure, but you are responsible to another person in your life, and you have to consider them in any major decisions you make. If you want to move across country, like you can't just bring that on Pookie, bro. She got to know about that. You got to talk about that. Sorry. Just, you lose a little bit of autonomy. You can't just operate on a whim all the time. Now maybe you're hearing this and you're thinking, yeah, I've already done all that. I love my life alone. I'm so happy where I am. I've made it to the other side of the loneliness voyage, but I still really want a partner. If that's you, I'm low-key jealous because I'm not there yet. That is an amazing place to be. And here are, I guess, some things I would say to that. I feel like it's the most human thing that I can think of to crave connection and to crave partnership. Learn to kind of acknowledge that ache without judging it. It's okay to feel it. You don't have to, feel bad about it or feel like you're not where you need to be. That feeling just means you're human and that connections are important to you. But you can kind of double down on the relationships you do have. Take all of that longing for a partner and pour it into your relationship with your mom, your brother, bestie, whatever. All that love you are ready to give can absolutely still go somewhere meaningful while you're waiting. Contentment isn't about feeling happy all the time. It's about being okay with the ups and downs of life. The goal is never to erase the desire for a relationship. So this is an interesting quote. I'm going to start this over. The goal is never to erase the desire for a relationship, but to not let that desire overshadow the beautiful, fulfilling life that you've already built. I like that quote a lot. Unfortunately, I can't read it, but there it is. Okay, so now we're going to jump into some practical steps and tools that will make you feel a little better if you are down bad, if you are going through it right now, you're upset. Number one, you know it, you love it, you can't get enough of it. It's journaling, ladies and gentlemen. I've said it on the show before. I'm a huge proponent for journaling. Writing out what you're feeling helps you label the emotion, helps you define what you're feeling, and then enables it to kind of, enables you to see it clearly. It also does help you track your progress. I was reading through this today to find an entry for this episode, and it's cool to see like how differently I feel now than when I was in the woes of, breakupville. There's no wrong way to journal. I end up kind of just like bitching into the void, just like scratching out stream of consciousness stuff. And I'm actually going to read you a little example here. Let's pull it up. I think I bookmarked too. So these are directly about my ex-girlfriend, and we're going to call her Coco. It's obviously not her name. That's the name of my dog. But this is like, okay, this is an example of like stream of consciousness. I want Coco to text me so badly. I'm fiending. I want to text her. Why? Because I miss her. What do you want to say? I miss you. I want you. What are you going to talk about? And what good will it do for you? It will make you feel better right now. Like I'm cracking through it, dude. I'm just outlining it'll make you feel better right now. Well, it's true. However, that conversation will end on a bitter note of resentment and will feel worse longer. Swallow the pill. She's not coming back. She didn't want to maintain the relationship in long distance, let alone rebuild it. You're like just flying through everything that's going through your mind, which is interesting to read back now because I'm like, yeah, you was low-key right, bro. You kind of ate that shit up. Another example. This is from January 30th of this year. So, yeah. Hey guys, I'm emo as fuck today. Coco was supposed to call the other day and has been radio silent, and that is bumming me out. I also would bet $100 she'll forget my birthday. But then I'm like, dude, she dumped you. Why would she talk to you? And I don't know if all that matters so much, but I am upset with the feeling that even after she's left, she's the center of my universe. Like, I'm just, it doesn't have to mean anything. It doesn't have to be politically correct. You just dump it out, dude. I can't believe I just read my fucking journal on here. That's crazy. But yeah, like I said, there's no wrong way to journal. You don't have to do it every day. Just write whatever comes to mind. You can talk shit in your journal. You can call people names in your journal. You can admit that I hated her dad. You can like crank whatever you want. I don't care. I'm not going to read it. Just write whatever you want. Let it out. It'll make you feel better. I promise. Trust me. Okay. Number 2, more things to do when you are down bad. Spend intentional time alone doing some activities that you enjoy. I remember in the absolute depths of my despair, I decided to go see a movie by myself. I was like, I'm going to take myself on a date. And I was hella nervous because I was like, people are going to be looking at me. It's weird. There's no one with me. It's crazy. I went and saw Elvis, my first solo movie experience. It was amazing. I got a big old Diet Coke. I got like a drum of popcorn. And I chose the movie because I wanted to see it. I got there when I wanted. I left when I wanted. I didn't have to talk to anyone. I took the long way home. And I don't think I'll ever forget that experience. Not because it was some crazy movie, but because it proved to me that I could enjoy my own company and I could choose things I wanted to do on my time. And this could look totally different for you. I love going to the movies. But people go out to eat by themselves. I have a whole list here. You can do whatever but just like do things that you enjoy doing by yourself. And every time you do it, you will feel more and more empowered and less awkward and less uncomfortable. Yeah, spend time doing things you want to do. Come up with some hobbies. John Kim, again, the same author, he talks about connecting with your inner child too, which I thought was really interesting. I'm a music producer, so I on his advice, started making the kind of music that initially got me into producing. I started producing like all this like sugary EDM stuff for a little bit just because I used to love it and it was fun. I also bought, remember those like ripsticks? It was like a skateboard with 2 wheels and you would kind of like twist. You know what I'm saying? I bought one of those because when I was a kid, I used to fucking love doing that. And you just kind of do these things that you used to love to do, and it reminds you of who you are and that you do love things, that you do have an identity. And then, yeah, I don't know. You could travel solo somewhere. You could take yourself on a solo date like I did. You could go to a shopping trip. You could go to a fancy mall. You could go see a comedy show. You could go to a nice dinner by yourself. I work at a restaurant, and whenever people come in by themselves, first of all, I'm extra nice to them. But second of all, if their vibe is like giving it back, I will like try and be friends with them and like talk to them. Because I know when I go to restaurants by myself, which is rare if I'm honest, I want to like make friends and I want to like talk to the servers and I I don't know. I like connecting with people. So I'm like sitting there hoping someone will talk to me. So go to restaurants by yourself. You're not the only person to do it. I promise. I work in a restaurant. It happens every single day. You're fine. But it is honestly quite nice because you can order whatever you want. You can keep it as cheap as you want. Have fun, dude. Go to a nice restaurant by yourself. Cheesecake Factory, baby. You could go see a comedy show. You could start a podcast like this. You could go write that podcast episode at a brewery with your dog. Think of something you would normally do with a partner. And if you're open to it, try doing it by yourself. It's going to feel uncomfortable at first. I know. I get it. I did it. It does. But the more you do it, and while you're kind of in the action of doing it, you're like, okay, no one fucking cares that much. Like, no one's looking at you. And I promise it will empower you just a little bit and remind you that you are all right on your own, man. You're going to be good. Pick up a new hobby. Like I said before, I started playing pickleball because I'm a sheep and everyone plays pickleball. I can't think for myself, but I love it. It's a lot of fun. I started playing poker with friends for a little while there. I started trying new restaurants by myself. All sorts of fun stuff. Do whatever you want. You have autonomy, bro. You're alone. It's just you. You can do whatever you want. Everyone's different. Everyone's feelings are, they happen in different stages. Just think of something you would like to do and make time for it. Trust me, this is what life is all about. I talked earlier about my need for external validation. This, doing things for myself and with myself, is the best way that I've found so far to generate internal validation. Spending time with yourself and caring for yourself the way you might care for a partner is how you love yourself. That's how you do that. That's how you learn to love yourself if you don't. That is a difficult journey for all of us. It takes a minute, but I promise this will help. Just invest a little bit of time in yourself, Pookie. Like, love on yourself. This was something I found online that I thought was really interesting. They said, make a single bucket list. This is kind of similar to the last thing we just touched on, doing things you want to do. But I do think the act of writing out a physical bucket list and writing down some things you want to do with this time keeps you more present and lets you view singleness as like an opportunity to check these cool things off instead of a waiting room. Number 4 here, learn to appreciate solitude as a form of growth, not isolation. No matter what, you are the only person you will ever be with throughout your entire life. Throughout the highs and lows, till death do your ass part, it's just going to be you, man. Learn to be alone by being alone. You might have partners, you might have parents, you might have friends. You're the only person that's going to be there the whole time, okay? In my experience, the longer you spend single, the better you get at enjoying it, and the more you really do start to appreciate your independence and feel like, if this was it, maybe I'd be a little sad, but I would be all right. Read and grow your mind. You don't have to read, but try your best to expand your mind and get your brain kind of out of its comfort zone. Things like TikTok, Instagram, they have their place. But I think especially when you're alone or when you're sad, it can be kind of this meaningless void we throw our time into. Try to focus on healthier uses of time. Every time I go through a period of singleness, I do a project. The last 2 big relationships, those projects have been books in an attempt to read more. I picked 2 huge classic novels and I was like, you are going to fucking finish these books. The first one I read was Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. The second one I read was East of Eden by John Steinbeck. And I think I liked this because finishing the book made me feel accomplished. And also, to give you a little context, this was like right after. This was like, the first month after a breakup. It made me feel accomplished and also gave me a preset thing to kind of take my mind off of the relationship. You don't have to read an 800-page book, but maybe pick a little project like a hard puzzle or mastering a new skill. Yeah. Pick something to put your brain into that's not TikTok. Here are some books on singleness and self-help that I have read if you're interested in reading them. Number 1, The Defining Decade by Meg J. I fucking love this book. The little trailer is a guide to maximizing your 20s by addressing career, relationships, and identity development with urgency and intentionality. Single on Purpose by John Kim, which I mentioned earlier. A reflective manual encouraging self-love and fulfillment by finding purpose and joy outside of relationships. I Used to Be a Miserable Fuck, also by John Kim. A raw and humorous roadmap to reclaiming masculinity and building a more authentic, fulfilling life. And then Atomic Habits by James Clear. This is a practical guide to transforming your life through small incremental habit changes that yield massive long-term results. They're all great books. Highly recommend them. I apologize. This episode has been a little bit scattered. I hope you've been able to follow. We're going to begin to wrap all of this up, though, and talk about how our time single affects our future relationships. The first thing, and this has been the most noticeable for me, is that you enter relationships as a choice, not out of necessity or to fix some problem or viewing a person as, this missing part of a whole. That's really, really cool because you're entering good relationships that are good for you and that will make your life better, not maybe make it worse or make you dependent. Our time single helps us learn what genuinely makes us happy. For me, again, apart from external validation, it helps us build emotional independence so that we approach relationships from a place of fulfillment rather than lack. You're coming into this relationship emotionally independent, full of life, full of community, full of friends, full of hobbies and things that you're passionate about. And you're coming to the relationship to contribute those things instead of, take them from the other person. To expand on that, it allows us to enter a relationship as a choice, not out of necessity. That's kind of what I mentioned earlier. Like I said, this outline is a little crusty, guys. This shifts our view of love a little bit from I need you to complete me to I choose to share my life with you, because you have built a whole life. You've built a community and like I just said, you've done it. You've done the work. It also does help us to break patterns of codependency, equating someone's attention with self-worth. This reflection helps to see love as a partnership rooted in mutual respect and personal autonomy, not control or dependency. It also helps us set boundaries. We talked about that. On a larger note, it helps us see that love isn't reserved for romantic relationships. It can be spent on yourself, on your family, on your friends, on people that you love that are not your girlfriend or your boyfriend. All in all, to conclude this rather janky episode, thank you again for your patience. I want to remind you that you are exactly where you're meant to be. Singleness is not a waiting room. It's a unique opportunity to discover who you are and build a life you love, and one day share that life with someone you love. Take a little time this week to focus on what you want out of your singleness, and if you've been in it for a while, maybe on some things that you've learned in your time being single. I want to be here for you guys like a brother. Send me a little DM about something you're struggling with or something that you've learned in this time. And as always, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to rate me 5 stars, leave a little comment, share with someone else you think would like it. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at olderbrotherpod. And until next Tuesday, love ya. See ya.